Hey, welcome back. On my way home, I am Miss Mandy, and today I'm just going to spitball a little bit about a topic that was on my mind, and that is, what would life be like? How would it be different if we didn't have to worry about money, if we didn't have to think even about money at all? Because if there's one thing I've learned through this process of trying to build wealth for myself, it is that the wealthy don't have to worry or think about money. The truly wealthy, they don't have to worry or think about money. They probably do, talk about money in some aspects, in some way, shape, or form in their lives because they fund their projects. But what would it be like if you could do that without having to think about where your next paycheck is coming from? If you could do that without having to if you could plan your day knowing that you didn't have to go to work to get a paycheck at the end of the week. I think that is an interesting concept because as someone who has worked her whole life, I've been in the workforce since I was 16. I'm 32 now. That is half of my life, folks. And for all of that time, I've been trading my time for money. My active income is what pays my expenses. And one of the biggest things that I've learned that is a difference between people who are wealthy and people who are middle class or not wealthy or not well off is that they use their active income to pay for their expenses, to pay for their lifestyle like I do. My income comes in, I pay my mortgage, I pay my light bill, I pay my phone bill, and then whatever's left I get to spend, right? And that's how most of us operate. But what I want to know, what I've learned is that wealthy people don't think that way. What wealthy people do is they use their active income to buy assets that cash flow. I've said this before, you're probably familiar with it if you've seen any of my other videos. So they buy assets that cash flow, and that cash flow is what they use to live their lives. That automatic passive income, the income that they set up once and it recurs over and over and over again, that is what they use to live their lives. Their active income has not a lot to do with their expenses. And that is how they're able to build, because once you buy one rental house and you start getting the income regularly from that, then you're able to free up a lot of time. And once you build up enough money to buy another house, it just kind of snowballs. The more rental houses you have, the more you can afford, right? You just have to start getting the ball rolling, which is kind of hard at first. But what would it be like if we didn't have, if we operated in that way as middle and poorer classes? And this is something I really, really find interesting, because as you begin to build wealth, as you begin to learn how to build wealth, because people don't know this stuff. I didn't know this stuff. I'm still learning a lot about it. But as you begin to learn those types of things, you begin to wonder, what is life going to look like at that point? And as a big picture person, I can see that. I am really good at seeing what lies ahead really far down the road, what the whole picture will look like. When I build wealth, what is my life going to look like? But not everybody thinks that way. And that's fine. I just want you to use this video if you are a person who does not think that way. Use this video to begin to imagine, because that bigger end picture, that end goal, is what helps make you feel fulfilled along the way. It is what helps drive you. It gives you purpose for every step that you take. And if you're not able to see that right off the bat, let me help you paint that picture. So we're going to go over what it is I feel like my life will look like. Now, it may align with what it ends up looking like. It may not. I don't know. But we're going to imagine that money is out of the picture. Like, I don't have to work for my income. Imagine that. It's hard to imagine, but imagine that. I don't have to work for my income. I automatically get a check at the end of the week, at the end of the whatever pay period you're on. You're just going to automatically receive that amount of money that you need to live. Your expenses, everything's free. Everything's taken care of. Everything you want to buy doesn't cost money. Imagine what that would be like. What would you do? What would you go out and spend your time on? What would you choose to do every day for the rest of your life? And it doesn't have to be the same thing every day for the rest of your life. I think that would be pretty boring. But what projects would you work on? What is important to you now that you don't get enough time to do? So I have begun imagining my life like that. And what is it I would do with my day-to-day if I didn't have to get up and go to my office every morning? Well, I'd get up and I'd start my day with a little me time. I like my cup of coffee with a little bit of almond milk and cinnamon on top, and then I take it downstairs to where the computer is, and I spend the first minutes of my day listening to something motivational. I found that really helps me get through my days. So I don't care who it is, I don't care what it is. Simon Sinek is a favorite of mine, but I'll find some videos on YouTube, some short motivational speeches. Oprah's another good one. Denzel Washington has a lot of good ones out there. Matthew McConaughey has a lot of good ones posted online. And I listen to these people who are so successful give the blueprint of how they became that way. Give the blueprint of the struggles that they went through, but most of all, give the blueprint of what steps they took and what fears they had and how they overcame those fears to get where they are in a super successful position in life today. And I found that motivates me. Now, your motivation may look entirely different. But if I look ahead to what is there, like I said, big picture person, if I look ahead to what is there, then it really just motivates me to take the next step and the next step and the next step and everything that's building on each other. It motivates me to build. Every year on New Year's, I don't pick resolutions. There's a book called The One Word, and a former employer actually instigated me doing this at first. And they wanted us to pick, one word that we wanted to focus on for that year. And the first year, I think my word was focus, and I think another year my word was purpose. And this year, my one word that is the crux of what's going to happen in this year is build. And what I mean by that is I want to build things. I want to build businesses. I'm starting from the ground up. I don't have wealth. I don't have resources to start with. I am starting from the ground, literally ground zero. So I have to build everything from scratch, and that is hard. That is what's really hard, because the barrier to entry to create wealth in many ways is very high. If you want to buy a rental property, sure, it might cash flow you a couple $100, but you have to put in a couple $1,000 before you can get that cash flow of a couple $100. I don't have a couple $1,000 lying around, and I'm sure if you're here, neither do you. If you do, cool, you are way ahead of me on the path to building wealth. Maybe you need to go find somebody who's a little further ahead in the game than me, but I'm getting there, and I will let you know when I do, and I'll share with you every step of the way. But yeah, so in these motivational speeches that I listen to, there's some that are really, really motivational to me. The ones that are not are the people who tell you that if you haven't made it there yet, you haven't worked hard enough. You don't want it bad enough. I feel like we should not listen to those people. And usually the people who say that are names I've never heard before. Yes, it takes hard work to build, to accomplish something, to reach a goal. It does take hard work, but it's not, I feel like if you're working hard to the point where you don't enjoy your life, that is not going to build you a life that you love. How is doing something you hate over and over and over again going to build a life you love? That makes no sense to me. Instead, what I propose we do is, work hard on what you do love over and over and over again. Strive to enjoy every minute of your life. That is the purpose of our lives, of living. The purpose is to enjoy the passage of time, to enjoy our lives. And if we're deferring enjoyment because someday maybe we're going to enjoy life later, because someday maybe we might have more money, enough money to enjoy our lives the way we want to enjoy them, I think the approach should be to enjoy life now, in whatever way that is within your means. I mean, there's lots of free ways to enjoy your life. I really enjoy taking our dogs out into nature, out on walks, and that is a free way to enjoy life. I enjoy that time. I enjoy spending time with my kids, and while the kids themselves have a lot of expenses attached to them, the time I spend with them doesn't have to be anywhere that costs money. I can take them out to the park. In fact, let me tell you a story. back in October of this past year, we went to the zoo. And it was a nice planned day. I met up with a friend who has kids of her own. So we had lots of little kids in our party and spent a couple hours at the zoo. We have little kids, so they can only handle a couple hours. We left in just the right time. Everything went perfectly. There wasn't a, whiny one in the bunch. It just was a good day. You imagine all the things that can go wrong with lots of little kids at the zoo. There's lots of them. None of those happened on this day. It was a good day. The weather was perfect. Nobody was too hot. Nobody was too cold. It was great. And after we left the zoo, we'd eaten, we left the zoo. What we did was, my kids were getting hungry, so I stopped by our local burger shop. I got them a burger and an ice cream, and I took them to a park to eat it. And we stayed at the park for like an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours. I don't know how much time was spent there. But over and over and over again, my daughter, who is 8, said, "Thank you so much for bringing us to the park today. Thank you, Mommy. Thank you. I've had the best time at the park today." She could have cared less about the zoo. We paid money to get into the zoo. We paid money to eat at the zoo. And she couldn't have cared less. She loves animals. And she loves going to the zoo. But she could not have cared less that day about what I spent my money on. What she cared about was that she had a great time at the park. She got to play. She got to spend time with me. I got to spend time with her where I wasn't worried about work, where I wasn't worried about, where the next paycheck was coming from. I wasn't worried about spending money on something they wouldn't enjoy. She got to spend that time tax-free with me. And that is what she loved. And that was a beautiful day. And that is an example of how I want to live my life, enjoying my time. I want to enjoy my time in that way, in the way that she enjoyed her time. And I want to be able to say, thank you. I enjoyed my time so much. Thank you so much for the value that this experience has brought to me today. And I think those moments are what we live our lives for. And they don't have to come later. You can live your life and enjoy it now. And because you enjoy it, it puts you in this mindset to create more, to be more, to do more of the things that you like to do. And you're happier overall because of that. I heard one speaker say that you can tell the tree by the fruit that it bears, meaning that if you're not producing, that you're not a productive tree and you have no value. And I totally and wholeheartedly disagree with that, because you can take the exact same type of tree. So imagine we have an apple tree, and you put this apple tree, the first apple tree, into a place that is really well cared for. This garden is maintained, it gets regular watering, it is looked after, it is pruned when it needs to be. But the second tree gets just kind of plopped out in the middle of nowhere. It doesn't receive regular care, regular water. It just is left to its own devices to grow wild. It doesn't have somebody making sure there are all the nutrients available to it. Those two trees will not produce fruit in the exact same way. And those people who say that it doesn't matter where you come from and it doesn't matter what situation you're in when you start out, it's true to an extent in that anybody in any situation can become successful. But what's not true about that is that you can't take someone from a malnourished background and expect them to produce the same kind of fruit, the same abundance of fruit that someone who came from that carefully tended garden would produce. The amount of resources are not available to those two people in the same way. And the knowledge about where to get those resources is not available to those two people in the same way. So yes, anybody can be successful. Anybody from any situation can turn their life toward the better. But it's not in the way that it's not available to everybody in the same way that it is available to somebody who is more privileged. That's what privilege is coming from a background where you get things easier than somebody who is not from your background. And I understand that I am coming from a place of extreme privilege compared to some. And compared to others, I'm coming from a place of less privilege, because I can imagine a lot of ways that I am privileged in that I've never suffered for money. I've never suffered for food. I've never suffered for health care. But there are also a lot of ways that I am less privileged than somebody who was born into a wealthy situation, that has the money to start investing right off the bat. And like I said, I don't have thousands of dollars lying around. If somebody were to give me thousands of dollars, I could probably, with the knowledge that I have right now, take it and carefully invest it into something that would create a lot more money. I don't have that. So, I'm slightly less privileged than someone who has that. I'm here at the post office where I was heading, so I'm going to get off here in just a minute, but just to wrap it up to say, start imagining what your life would look like. What would you do? What would I do with my time? I would spend time with my family. I would spend time doing the things I love to do, like gardening. I would design and create beautiful gardens and create food production in those gardens, functional beauty. And I want to, one day I want to be able to invest a lot of my money to achieve economic independence. And why do I want to do that? Because it gives me freedom of time. And really that's what it comes down to, because money is a resource that we all need, but is a resource that we can all get more of it with the right skills and knowledge. Time is given to everyone equally. You cannot achieve more time. You can be more efficient with your time, but you cannot achieve more time in your day, no matter how much you try, because everybody gets the same amount of daylight. Everybody gets the same amount, same 24 hours in every day. So those are just my thoughts for the day. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to hit the thumbs up button to help my channel out. Thank you very much. And until next time, I will see you then. Bye.